Hello and welcome to How to Deal When the Shit Gets Real podcast. I'm Marietta.
So, Stephany, how do you deal when the shit gets real? Or just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I found myself just crying and laying on the bathroom floor and just like, God, why does all this stuff keep happening to me? Why me? I didn't do anything wrong. Why me? I'm a good person. I've done everything right. Yet my life was just a shitty mess. And laying there, I just could not get past all this pain and suffering that had engulfed my life for so long. I spent over 17 years within these two abusive marriages and lost multiple homes. I had lost loved ones. I had a baby born with a very rare genetic disorder. And it's like all this shit just kept happening to me. And I was laying there at my sister's house on the tile floor, just I'm sorry, tears streaming down my cheeks, and just like, why me? And I felt like in that moment, when I had lost my eyesight, so here I am like blind at my sister's house, and I just felt like in that moment, God, the universe, divine source, whomever we resonate with, was saying, Stephany, you are not seeing your story through the right lens. You need to let go of the victim story that you are holding on to, and you need to become the star of your story. And so I needed to shift my perspective. And when I shifted from why me to for me, then I could see the lessons. I could see what needed to be healed, what needed to be released, what needed to be let go. And I could become the star, the heroine of my story.
Did you really become blind, or are we metaphorically speaking?
I did. Well, I did. So I was living in Florida at the time, and I went boating with some friends. And, I have the really good UV sunglasses, but they broke. And so I just picked up a cheap pair on the way to the boat from the gas station. And I woke up the next morning and I couldn't see.
Oh my
I
gosh.
barely made it to my eye doctor's office. And she said, Stephany, your eyes are so damaged and so inflamed. Like, it's really rare, but I have like really, really light hazel eyes. And just being out on the boats and going on the islands and stuff, I destroyed my eyes. I couldn't see for 6 weeks. And
Oh
she
my
said
gosh.
it looked like someone took sandpaper and just like
Oh,
sanded my
you made me shudder just
insanity.
saying that. Oh my gosh.
it hurt to open them. I was like, I couldn't see. And, when I made that shift in my perspective of letting go of the victim consciousness, the victim mindset that I held on to, then I honestly, I literally was able to start to slowly to start to see again.
That's so funny.
And so I felt like, we have these things happen to us, and they happen to us for a reason. And for me, it was, I literally was not seeing my life through the right lens. I had to physically go blind for divine to catch my attention and say, Stephany, stop.
Yeah.
That is wild.
And now everybody wants to play like the victim. Like you see it all the time on like social media and just in general. Everybody's like, "Oh, poor me," and it's like, no. What the hell happened to like pick yourself up by your bootstraps, like learning from mistakes and stuff? Why is all of a sudden everybody poor me?
Or even just apologizing when you victimize other people. There was just that whole fiasco with that debut author that did all those horrible things and then wrote an apology that didn't actually apologize and turned her into the victim. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not.
Well, it's when you are in these abusive relationships, abusive marriage. For me, I was married to two narcissists. One, my first husband, I was with him for almost 14 years. He is a covert narcissist. My second one, actually, we celebrated our anniversary just a couple days ago because we're still not technically divorced yet. But it is hard not to not see yourself as a victim, but you can only remain a victim for so long. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, then you need to see those lessons. And when we're stuck in this victim mindset, you can't see those lessons. People would tell me, Stephany, what have you learned? Well, I haven't learned anything because I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And how many of us say that? I didn't do anything wrong. Well, until you stop being the victim and let that go, you won't see the lessons and you can't move on with your life. You will continue to repeat the same patterns over and over again because that is what has happened to me. And if you think that we're here to learn the lessons and to grow, you're not growing when you're stuck in victim mindset.
Absolutely. And I've seen a lot of people make the same choice in like a relationship, in whatever, over and over again. So I've learned that lesson from watching other people kind of early because it was my mom and I was young.
Right?
So I learned, I was like, oh yeah, don't make the same choices again and again. I see you.
Right?
I think that's
You
the only
are
reason
wise.
why. It's the only reason why. Because if it wasn't modeled for me of a person making the same choice in a toxic person twice in a row, the exact same person, almost the exact same person twice, except for one is worse and that person is not my father, then, what can you do? I was like, oh my God, my mom picked the same guy again and he's worse.
Yeah.
Did you do the same, Stephany? Did you essentially kind of pick the same two people?
I did. And when I met my second husband, so I had been separated and going through the divorce with my first husband. It took almost 4 years to get divorced. And so when I met my second husband, I thought I was healed. I thought I had done the work. I thought I was ready to date. And so I did what most of us do. I made the list, right? Tall, dark, and handsome. Divorced dad with only boys because I'm a single mom with only boys. Someone who has lived overseas, someone who has traveled, has a bigger world view. So, I made the list and I threw it out there to the universe. And I met the guy a week later who checked off everything on that list. And so
you almost kind of felt like it was like meant to be because you made that list, and then a week later he was like, "Hello, I am here."
Hello, yes. And so when he would say things like, and this is what people with disordered personalities, they will say stuff like, "You are my soulmate. I manifested you. I've been praying for you. God sent me you." Well, it resonated because I had been doing all of that as well. And I made the list and he checked off everything on the list. And so it's like, you think you are doing it all right. We had a long distance relationship. I was like, let's just really get to know each other before we get serious and before it goes physical. Like, let's really get to know each other. So we spent a couple months really getting to know each other. Now, I didn't know that he was mirroring me. So essentially, I fell in love with me.
Myself, yeah.
And I go back to where, yes, I manifested him. I got exactly what I wanted. And the divine gave me all the unlearned lessons from my first marriage, because that's what happens. You get what you ask for with all the unlearned lessons that you did not learn the first time. Because again, we're here to learn the lessons, to grow, to be better versions of ourselves.
So what are a couple of like the lessons from the first marriage that you should have learned for the second? Or like the second guy, or just after, you know what I mean?
Great question. So, when I made that change of perspective where I needed to let go of the victim mindset, I needed to see both of my ex-husbands as teachers, not as monsters, because for so long I saw them as monsters trying to destroy my life. But when I was able to see them as teachers, I got out my little journal. And so I started with my first husband, Josh. And I said, okay, if Josh is this wise teacher, again, it is a bit of a mental whatever, you just have to, you just have to go there and do it because it works. And so I had to say, okay, this wise teacher, my first ex-husband, I am happy and grateful that you showed me that I need stronger boundaries in my life. He had affairs for 10 years and he left with another married woman, and that was how the discard happened. But I thought I had boundaries, but really I had boundaries for him. And so I would confront the other women, stop talking to him, he's married, blah, 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 putting all these boundaries for him. I became the boundaries police. And it's not our job and our responsibility to be boundaries for someone else. We can only be boundaries for ourselves. And if someone does not honor and respect that boundary, then you have to decide to go. And so going into my second marriage, I thought I had boundaries because, it was a lesson. I was like, okay, I need to be better and more firm on these boundaries. And so with husband number two, going in there, I had the boundaries. But really, you might as well have just called it a puppy gate or a toddler fence, because he would push up against my boundaries and I would pick up my boundary and I would move it over. Okay, here's my boundary now. Then he would push up against the boundary. I would pick up my little toddler gate, move it over. And so it's not a boundary. A boundary is something that is firm and secure and is,
and you shall not
does
pass.
not move. Yes, exactly. And so again, I didn't really have boundaries. So that was a big lesson. Another lesson was worthiness. In my first marriage, he was constantly having affairs. And I could say, thank you, Josh, for showing me that I am worthy of so much more. I'm sorry, I do have my older kids helping, but I'm just going to grab him.
Yes.
Here. Mom life.
He got his fingers stuck. Jackson, come here.
Aw.
Yes, you got your fingers stuck. Go take this. Put up the puppy paws with Jackson. Can you put the puppy paws on, please? So, so I could say I am worthy of so much more. And I like to say worthy over deserving, because so many people say deserving, like, oh, you deserve so much better. Well, deserving means that you did something to deserve this. Worthiness is innate. I am worthy because it is who I am. And so, I learned that was a lesson, that I am worthy of so much more. When you have boundaries, when you know your worth, you're not going to put up with all of this stuff.
The bullshit.
Exactly. And it's like, another hard lesson is we cannot change people. We can only change ourselves. We can do the hard work, we can work on ourselves, and eventually over time, we might evolve out of that relationship. And there is nothing wrong with that. I think in our society, there's just this stigma that you stay together, you work it out, you do all this. But what if one of us has evolved and grown out of the relationship and we are no longer able to tolerate or to be with someone who is not willing to evolve or do the hard work or work on themselves. And it should be okay to say, you know what? I have outgrown you. I'm going to continue ascending and working on myself and growing. And there's someone else on your level who might be there for you.
Yeah.
Unevolved and unwilling to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people will relate to your boundaries scenario. I think a lot of us struggle to put up boundaries and keep them. So.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we realize that not all narcissists are the same, of course, but are there any signs or red flags that you can give to our listeners that they might be able to look for in a narcissistic relationship?
Yeah. So when we, first I'll define what a narcissist is. So we all remember that Greek mythology where narcissist, he fell in love with his reflection. He never left the pool because he was just so infatuated, so divinely obsessed with himself. So a narcissist is someone with a disordered personality. They have this huge, grandiose sense of self-importance and self-worth. They feel like everyone is there to worship them and that everyone wants to worship them. This excessive need for admiration, the constant need for attention, and just wanting all of your attention. I always hear people say, oh, they're like energy vampires because they just drain you of everything. But they're so manipulative that they will manipulate, they will gaslight, they will do whatever it takes to get what they want. Just a huge lack of empathy, like no regard for your feelings or for you, because the relationship is all about them. So red flags would be things that I have learned. If you are a woman on a date with a man or getting to know another man, one big red flag is, how do they talk about women? What are they saying about women? Ask them how they feel if a woman was president. What is their relationship like with women in their lives? What is their relationship with their past girlfriends or past wives? What are they saying? Are they saying negative things or positive things? This was something that it threw me off because, in the beginning, they put you on this, like I said, on this big pedestal. And so there is this idealization phase. It's where they love everything about you. Like I was saying in the beginning, they can't get enough of you. You are the most amazing, the most beautiful, the most caring, the most supportive. You are, God's gift to them. My ex loved that I was an attorney. He loved that I was a strong, powerful, confident woman. He loved that I was a good mom. He loved that all my girlfriends were all these like big, strong, powerful women. He loved all of that. But yet when it came to the devaluation phase, he hated all my girlfriends. Oh, they're all just feminists, like blah, blah, blah. He hated my profession, and all he would do is just put me down, put my profession down, put what I did down. He hated the way I parented, and so it's like they go from mirroring you to criticizing you and bringing you down. And so, when I asked him in the beginning about his ex-girlfriends, his all of these women in his life, it wasn't always negative, but during the devaluation phase, it was every time. And then from then on, every time he talked about women, it was always talking about them in a negative way. Women are always using the system. Women always trying to get men for everything. Oh, my ex-wife, she did all this, blah, blah, blah. And I have later gone back and looked at all of that and actually spoke with people. And it was all not true.
Oh, yeah.
And so that is a red flag. if you can catch it before you're hooked, is how do they treat women? Are they disrespectful or are they kind and loving towards women? Drinking. At the time I was managing 2 vineyards. I live in Southern Oregon. We're wine country. And it was my fun job when I was going through my divorce. And so I was around drinking all the time. And so drinking didn't bother me. But I later learned that he was hiding gallons of vodka. So again, it's like, we talk about all these red flags. And narcissists are good at hiding the red flags. They are very good at hiding them. People are like,
Absolutely.
Didn't you see the red flags? No, I didn't see it. I didn't see all the vodka because he was hiding it and I wasn't looking for it.
Yeah.
I trusted him. He was talking wonderfully about women when I first, was with him. And so, it's like, it's very hard.
Yeah. Like you said, they basically hook you. And then once you're hooked, it's like, ha ha ha.
Yeah, no, it is so true. And so, my background is domestic violence. And domestic violence is back then, 20 plus years ago, it wasn't focused on the emotional and the psychological abuse. It was focused on the physical violence. And so now you find us in these relationships. Well, there's not the physical violence. My first husband was a cheater. How many of us do that? How many of us put cheating over here and abuse over here? Oh, he's just a cheater. Oh, he just cheats. He cheats. That's abuse. That's emotional and psychological abuse.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it took me a long time to understand that even though I was working domestic violence cases, I didn't see myself as a victim of domestic violence. I didn't see myself as a victim of narcissistic abuse.
Well, so I don't know about you.
Go ahead, Kenny.
I was going to say, I don't know about you, but like my mom internalized the cheating too. It was always her fault. It was never my dad being really a narcissist, honestly. But it was never my dad. It was my fault. I got fat. I'm ugly. Like, I'm awful. I'm a horrible person. I'm a horrible mom. That's why he cheated. And it's like, no. You need to stop internalizing that because it's his problem. It's what he did. He did it to you. You're not the problem. He's the problem.
But if you have someone who is behind closed doors where you're not in that conversation and he's like, you're so fat and ugly, you made me do this. I wouldn't have gone searching if you would just take care of your body. I wouldn't have gone looking for other women if you had just been emotionally available to me, meaning fawn all over me and
that was my dad.
Not talk to anyone else. And so, it's very hard after someone is constantly saying all that negative stuff to you. It's hard not to internalize it and say, well, it must be me.
And actually, towards the end, though, my dad didn't like me because I was too young. I don't remember this all that clearly. I just remember my mom's like, oh yeah, you would get your dad so riled up because I would say, well, aren't you going to tell her that you love her? Aren't you going to go and get her flowers? I was like, Dad, now don't you need to treat your woman right? And it would frustrate the frick out of him because it's like a little 10-year-old being like, why aren't you saying I love you to mommy?
Yeah, right?
It was so funny when she told me that. I was like, really? She was like, oh yeah, I was really pissed off about that.
Well, and it's what happens with people who find themselves in these relationships, and I find themselves, I mean, yes, I guess we call it in, with our unlearned lessons and stuff, repeating the same patterns. But, there's a thing called a trauma bond. And for anyone who doesn't know what a trauma bond is when there is a cycle of intermittent reinforcement. So there's the really good high times followed by really low, hard, negative times. So it's the idealization. Idolization. Some words are just so hard to pronounce. The idealization phase, and then devaluation, idealization, devaluation. And so you're stuck in this intermittent reinforcement. And through all of that, and with, the gaslighting and everything, it really creates this cognitive dissonance. And then with that forms this trauma bond. And so we know that it's going to be bad, but we know that it's good also. And so you get stuck in this pattern that keeps you stuck. And I always describe it like a drug addiction. Okay. And I used to even say this to my husband, I feel so addicted to you. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
It's because of the trauma bond. And so think of like a drug addict. The first time they use a drug, they get this huge high, this huge dopamine rush, right? And so the next time they use again, they're trying to get that first high, but you never get that first high. And so you use again, and you use again. But every time you use, it just gets lower and lower. You never reach. But you are constantly chasing that dopamine high, and that's what keeps you addicted in that cycle. And it's similar with a trauma bond, because we know that they know how to love us. We know that they know how to be kind to us. We know that they know how to treat us well. Why don't they? So we wait. When it gets bad, we're like, we wait. And then the love bomb comes, and they start love bombing us back to them. And then it's like, oh, here he is again. Here's the person I fell in love with. And then they devalue again. And it's like, I need to get out of this. This is miserable. I don't want to be here. I hate this person. And then they love bomb you back. Oh, no, I love him. Yes, I love him. Oh, he's great. He's wonderful. It was an emotional affair, not a physical affair. We justify.
Oh, yeah.
Was that moment on the bathroom floor when you finally reached your breaking point, or was that after marriage too?
That was after marriage too. I was done. They were monsters. They were both out to destroy me. And
so how did you finally come to realize that marriage one needed to be donezo?
So marriage one was with Josh. We were together for a very long time, and he left. Again, I was a boundaries person. I kept confronting this woman. Hey, he's married. Leave him alone. Blah blah blah. And he eventually one day just walked out and was like, "I'm going to go see if the grass is greener. I think I'm going to go be with her." And she was married and had 2 kids too. We had 2 kids. We all went to the same church together. We were all in the same church, Bible study group, all this stuff. It was...
the real question is he still with her?
No, he died.
Yeah.
Because she said that earlier, sorry.
Yeah, so
what happened there? I'm just curious.
So he committed suicide.
Oh my God.
So after he left, it was 6 years of post-traumatic separation abuse. So then he used the courts against me. And I mean, we have spent so much money fighting over nonsense. He would just file frivolous motions after frivolous motions after frivolous motions. It's like, how much was he paying his attorney? Because I know how much I was paying mine, and I am an attorney.
Oh my God. Yeah, really.
And so it was a nightmare. It was truly a nightmare. And towards the end, when I left husband number 2, he was actually trying to alienate my children from me. And I just kept thinking, no, I knew that God told me I would be vindicated. I knew that all of this was wrong. And, it's a disordered personality, and they live in so much hurt. And, I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not going to get into all the self stuff for a narcissist and what makes them who they are. But he had done so much hurt and damage to me and to my children. I don't think he could live with himself anymore, and he couldn't. And so he did commit suicide 2 months ago.
I mean, still terrible. You'd never wish that upon anybody.
No, it's horrible. I never wanted that for him. I wanted him to work with me so we could work through all of this stuff. But when you have someone who is so adamant about destroying you, he was actually destroying his own life.
Clearly.
And so I am just very grateful that I've always had a very open and honest relationship with my children. They knew what he was doing. We would talk about it. Hey, he's trying to do this. He's trying to do this. He attempted first, and then he did it again 3 weeks later. And so, it's like I had to talk to my boys about this. And, a couple of hours after he had taken his own life, my 9-year-old says to me, he said, "Mom, we can go travel the world now."
Oh my gosh.
And that's his way of saying that we are free.
Yeah.
We are free because
it's terrible he had to know that, though.
It's horrible. Especially I wouldn't wish this on anyone. But at the same time, it's like I also didn't want them influenced by him.
Oh no, absolutely not.
He wasn't a good person.
And they would have been influenced by them had you not told them. Because they'd be like, "Oh no," like because you're not being like open and honest about it, so he can use that against you.
Oh yeah,
and just doing it for their own protection.
Yeah,
and just in general, kids are gullible, like by nature. Like they're gonna believe what their dad tells them or what their mom tells. Like both parents, they're gonna believe dad and mom. Like they're going to be like, "What are you talking about? What's going on?" Like, they're going to be confused probably more than anything if you're not honest with them.
Well, narcissists never stop. I dated one in high school, and I'm still friends with his sister. I adore her. And he still tries to find ways 15 years later to manipulate himself into a situation. And I don't talk to him. I don't have any ties to him, but he'll still try to find like little ways to just be ridiculous. And I'm like,
like trying to get your attention or an emotional response from you.
Yeah. He like remembered my phone number, first of all, which is weird. And he's married now and tried to text me and be like, "I need marriage advice." You're barking up the wrong tree, buddy.
Well, and they always come back because unless you completely go no contact and cut everything off, you are leaving room. You are supply on the side.
Yep.
And you have no closure. It's very bizarre.
It is.
And so, with my first husband, we had no relationship. After he walked out the door, it was, I did not exist. And he was trying to do everything to make me not exist as if I was not there. But then, 6 years later, he called me. He gave me the cry. He was crying. He apologized for everything. It was so weird. And he was married to someone else.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
It was like, it was very confusing. Like so many, it was the stuff I wanted to hear 6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But not anything I can now.
Yeah, and it's like, and then it was very confusing. I still love you, all this stuff. And then and then with him trying to do other things, it was like, what a
What are you doing?
What a mess.
Yeah. Try to do, like, he sent me the text and I literally showed it to my husband. I'm like, you can respond to this if you want, but I'm not. And then, of course, I told his sister, I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to put you in an awkward spot, but I'm not going to respond to it. So maybe the next time you see me, you could just be so kind to say, leave my friend alone. She's my friend now.
Yeah.
You have lost any sort of association with her many, many years ago. Because I'm not going to talk to you. He actually was in trouble when he was young and wanted to like petition the court to get something dropped off his record. And he asked me to write a letter. And I was like, Are you?
No.
Have you lost your damn mind? I don't think so.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. No, not to like, so so my second husband, we're not fully divorced yet because I haven't been able to find him. And,
that's fun.
well, I did find him. I'll tell you how. So back in September, I had a missed call from a bail bondsman in Florida. And I was like, oh, golly.
Yeah.
Who's calling me? But see, I have a Florida phone number and I would get like all these random phone calls from people. So whoever had my phone before me, I think he was in trouble with the law a lot because I got calls from sheriffs and other things. I'm like, no, this isn't his phone number.
Please stop calling me.
Please stop.
I know. And so when I got the number, when it was the bail bonds, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, oh, it's, whoever had this phone before me, it's his mess again. Well, about a month later, it was around October, my sister sends me my ex-husband's mugshot. He got a third DUI.
Oh no.
And I went back and I looked at the dates and I pulled up my phone records.
And
it was
like,
freaking him calling me. Like, I would bail him out. I haven't even talked to him in so long. Like, I would bail you out.
That's what's wild to me about narcissists. They literally don't, there's like no boundary. Like, hey, I haven't talked to you in 6 years and I just walked out on you, but will you come bail me out of jail? No, absolutely not.
I know. It was just like so bizarre. I'm like, why did I bail you out? Stay in there.
Bye.
Bye, Felicia. Like, oh,
absolutely.
Like, what? No, I've gone completely no contact. I can't even. No.
Yeah, don't even remember my name.
So, what happened with, now, since you gave us the story of the first husband, now let's talk through the second husband.
Okay, so as the number two, his name was Jace, and here are some Jace and Josh.
I was gonna
say
you need to stay away from Jay. I was more thinking Jay.
Yeah.
Yep, Jay's Aquarius. I guess I have a thing for Jay's and Aquarius. I have two kids with with Jay's as their first name as well. So,
I'm an Aquarius though, so there are good ones.
No,
just FYI.
No. I love Aquarius women. Some of my very best friends are Aquarius women. It is Aquarius men that I'm like weirdly attracted to, and then they turn out to be narcissists. So,
note to self.
Yeah, but Aquarius women. No, I love you guys. You're like my best friend.
Yay.
And so, everything was great in the beginning. I thought I manifested him. He is my soulmate. He called me his soulmate. It was wonderful until he got me hooked. We met and got married within the same year, and which was really fast. But it was both of our second marriages, and we both had really big, huge first weddings. And so I was like, let's just whatever.
Let's just get it done.
Let's just do it. Yeah, and that's what we did. And so it was great. And I didn't notice anything until he had me hooked and married.
Hook, line, and sinker.
But then 2020 hit. So we got married in December of 2019. And then 2020 hit. And it was like the whole world went crazy. And he went into the devaluation. And so it was very confusing because I didn't know. I had only known him for a year. And I didn't know what was actually truly him, what was just exacerbated because we were all in 2020 and the world was crazy. So I didn't know, and I struggled with that for a really long time. And there was a lot of gaslighting. And so gaslighting is when someone tries to alter your perception of reality. So he would say, oh, that didn't happen like that. Oh, Stephany, you are so sensitive. You are oversensitive. Oh, you must be on your period. You're going to start your period. It's like, it's all you. It's never them. And so I just couldn't figure out what was going on because his behavior would dramatically change from, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I didn't know which one would be presented that day. And so I've always been a writer, and I've always kept journals. And so I would write these things, and he would try to tell me that didn't happen. That didn't happen like that. All the wineries shut down. I had a huge cellar and stuff, and I stopped drinking because I wanted to be emotionally not reactive, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And so I stopped drinking, and I tried to be like very aware, and he just got meaner and meaner and more evil. And I actually separated from him. I got a restraining order against him, and spent a couple months apart from him. That's why I found EFT and a whole bunch of other things. But then, I was still so confused. And that's why they like to keep you in this like constant state of confusion. And then his mother kept calling me, "Oh, he misses you. He's changed. Nobody changes after 2 months. Give them a couple of years, maybe.
Yes.
We'll see if they change." But his mom's like, "Stephany, he loves you so much. He's so sorry. He made a mistake. He's so sorry. He loves you. And will you please talk to him? Please work it out. We love you," all this stuff. And so, they call these the flying monkeys. They're little, the wicked witches, little monkeys go out, and so they call them the flying monkeys. And so I agreed to meet him. And again, it was 2020 still, and all of Oregon was on fire. If you remember, I don't know if you remember, but the whole West Coast was on fire in 2020.
Yes.
And so there was a part of me too that was like super scared. Like, so many people had all these conspiracy theories, and narcissists love a good conspiracy theory. And so I was like, I could feel that fear. Like, oh my God, it's like whatever's happening, all of Oregon's on fire. I mean, I was on the evacuation. My friends were packing up their stuff. A lot of my friends had already been evacuated. And so I was like, okay, fine, I will go and talk to him. And of course, he love bombed me back, because that is what they do. And you can see it. They say it takes a person leaving like 7 to 9 times before they actually leave. Mm-hmm. It's the trauma bond. It is the love bombing. It is all this stuff that keeps us stuff. And for me, it was all of that on top of just the world was collapsing.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I just didn't know what was reality. What was him? What was 2020? What was this? It was just a nightmare. Mm-hmm. And so we got back together, and I told him, well, you need to go and do like an abuser recovery program, go to AA and stuff. And he did all of that. But he did it to just appease me. I honestly think he just went into a room and just let the stuff play, because he didn't take anything seriously. But he was great. Again, like the idealization phase, he was great for about 4 months, but then his behavior changed again. He started drinking again. He started doing all this stuff. And for me, it was like, Stephany, how much are you willing to put up with? How much? Because you keep drawing these lines, you keep saying enough is enough, but yet you're not leaving. And so I just kept like, okay, well, I'm going to leave. And then December came of 2021, and he went into the hospital, and he almost died and was in the hospital for a month. And then when he came out of the hospital, his ex-wife died of COVID. And so it was like, and then we got 3 extra kids. And so I was like, oh my God, he's sick. Now I have 3 extra children who just lost their mom. I can't leave now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's hard.
That is.
And so, and I've been with these boys for many years, and now their mom is dead, and I'm the only other mother figure and stuff. And so it was a nightmare. And so I couldn't leave. I didn't feel like I could leave. And then there would be, these little periods of hope. Okay, he just almost died in the hospital for drinking too much. He's destroyed his pancreas. Maybe he'll stop drinking. Because when he's not drinking, he's a better person. Mm-hmm. No, because it's not
Can't get
about
rid
the
of it.
alcohol. It's about his power and control. They drink. That's just something they do.
Yeah.
But it's about power and control. And so they will manipulate and gaslight, like I was saying, to control you. And when they can't get a reaction from you, a response from you, they will go to physical violence. And if that doesn't work, they will just discard you and move on. Or you finally get up enough courage and enough self-worth and you say, I've had enough, and you leave them.
And you leave them, yeah.
And so we moved to Florida, and I actually didn't move because he moved to Florida with his kids, and me and my children, we share a baby, and our baby stayed here in Oregon. And because I was still dealing with my first ex-husband. But then when I finally did go back to Florida, it was great for a couple months. But during the time that we were apart for about 8 months, I really continued to work on myself and continue to do more deep healing, so that when I did meet up with him, it was just a lot of bullshit I was no longer willing to put up with.
Good for you.
And very, very quickly, the mask came off. He went on this narcissistic rage for 3 weeks. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen. If you can imagine, like a almost 6'4" toddler punching walls, slamming doors, doing all this stuff, because he also knew. He knew that he could no longer control me. I stopped reacting. I was done.
It's amazing that what happens when you just stop reacting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It is amazing.
Because that'll piss them off more than anything else.
Yeah, because they no longer can control you, and he no longer could control me. And I was, I felt like this slave. I mean, we were separated for, 8 months, and then we were together for 3 months. But during that time, it's like we had 6 children, 6 boys under 14. I was doing everything. I was paying the bills, cleaning the house, we had 3 kids in private school. So I had to take them, I had to drive because there's no buses, and 2 at this other school. They all played on multiple soccer teams. They all did all this stuff. And it was like, I was doing everything. And every time I'd bring it up to him, you need to help me, he would just start crying and deflect everything.
Not helpful.
It was so bizarre. So bizarre. And
now, is it you and your 3 kids back in Oregon, or did you stay in Florida?
No, we left. We got out of there as fast as we could. Actually, his giant narcissistic rage, it was 3 weeks of tormenting me, keeping me up all night, shining lights in my face, doing all this stuff. And finally I had enough. I reached over and I punched him and said, leave me the fuck alone. I'm done. I'm leaving. And then it got very physical and very violent. And he wouldn't let me leave. I tried to get out of the rooms. We had 2 doors, and I would go to this door and he would block it. I would go to this door, he would block it. And then he destroyed my phone. He broke a whole bunch of my stuff. And then he took the baby and wouldn't give me my baby. And then he called 911. I actually went to jail that night.
Oh my God.
They have everything planned. So many people say, oh, they're so crazy, they're so psycho. No, they are not. They have a disordered personality. They are not crazy, and they are not psycho. They know exactly what they are doing. This was his discard.
A very aggressive discard.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so, even the officer, I'm like, why are you arresting me? And it was a woman. And she said, he has a better story. And he has blood on his face because you punched him. I'm sorry, I've never punched anyone in my life. And my one little tiny punch did not give him blood on his face. He went and punched himself and hurt himself and did other things. And she's like, well, he has cuts all over his hands. Yeah, he's been punching walls for 3 weeks. And it's like, I mean, everything has been dropped and all this stuff. I was not prosecuted, thank God. But, it's like,
You still
but
had to
they
go
don't
through it all.
care. And I still had to go through it all. And it's like, and you know, like, I mean, CPS got involved, and I went and talked to CPS, and of course, you know, they believe me. They're like, as I've learned more about his story and his past, I had, you know, I've done my research now. This would be another red flag, or maybe just a piece of advice. Do a background check on anyone you give your phone number to. I do not give my phone number to anyone until I've done like a full thorough background check. And I am so grateful that my sister is like a private eye. And so she runs background checks and does everything. Now, if I would have known, I could have seen his record. And here I am. You're oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I actually just saw like the funniest reel. And it was like a woman's like, yeah, scoping out the pre TSA check because you know the government's already done your background check for you, so I don't have to do as much research. I was like, that's real funny.
No, well, it's like it's true, and here I am. I'm a very educated woman. I come from a good family. My family's not, I had healthy relationships modeled to me. I know the legal system. This is my office. It can happen to me.
It can happen to anybody.
It can happen to anyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's probably a bunch of listeners who are just realizing, oh shit, that person's a narcissist. Because I've thought of two, just as we're talking here.
This is why we talk about it.
Yes, and this is why I share my story too, because, you know, I didn't realize I was in these abusive relationships, and my background is domestic violence.
Yeah.
And so they creep up on you. They get you hooked. They get you addicted. You get trauma bonded. You get stuck in this cycle. It's very, very challenging and hard to leave, but you are worth it. You are so worthy of so much more. And so, you know, for any listeners, like, yeah, it's hard to leave. There's so much freedom on the other side. They will tell you, you will never find anyone else like me. You will never have another lover who can sexually please you the way I can. You will never have anyone who will take care of you. You will never all these things. You know what? There's so much better on the other side. Like, don't believe those lies.
Yeah. That's what they are. That's all they are lies. Mm-hmm. So speaking of you being an attorney, how has being an attorney helped you help others that are dealing with narcissists, like in the court system?
So I'm actually not practicing right now, just with, you know, baby and
of course
life and ex-husband. But what I do, I help people, you know, I do some consulting on the side. So helping people navigate the legal and going on podcasts and sharing like how do you prepare for a battle against a narcissist in court? How do you parallel parent? So that this is more of the legal stuff I do now. So, you know, if you are trying to leave a narcissist, you really want to make sure you have an attorney that understands, one, domestic violence, but two, a disordered personality like narcissist, because not all people do. And I mean, how many lawyers are narcissists themselves? So, you know, it's just like with a therapist as well. You want a therapist who understands the nuances of domestic violence and of a relationship with a narcissist. Keep track of everything. They will use everything they can against you. I made a comment to my first husband that I called him a liar. I said, I can't believe you just went on the stand and lied to the judge and you did all this stuff. But you know what? The next time we went in court, he went up there and said he was terrified of me because I was verbally aggressive towards him. Document everything. Have a video camera. Have a parenting app so that all communication is just done through the app where you can't delete text, keep track of everything. I would screenshot and put onto PDF files like the length of our phone calls. Even when I was talking with the boys, I would, everything I documented. I have a banker's box full of everything. And even now, even though my first husband has died, I'm still terrified to get rid of that. I don't know.
Yeah,
like
they're going to come back all of a sudden.
Yeah, right? Like his ghost or something. It's like, oh my God, I threw away everything I had. And now there's like some random weird issue. Like, I'm not throwing away that box. I'm going to go keep it. I'm going to go find it at my parents' house because, but save everything. I had to document everything. I had to save everything. And you have to go to court. So many times I had to sit there in court and have like complete lies. So many of us as the victims and the survivors, I mean, they will go up there and lie out of their teeth. Like, they don't care who they hurt or manipulate. They don't even care about the judge because they're above their judge. I've had that happen. I mean, I've seen it happen so many times. And so you can't emotionally respond. You can't react when you're in court. You have to be very professional. You just have to sit there and take it.
It just happened to my mom. She got taken to court randomly by this. Did my mom tell you?
Yes. Yeah.
By
and
this
I kept on calling
goofy...
her the what did I call her? I was like, oh yeah, you're the rebel.
Yeah, she got taken to court by this random neighbor because she was walking. She's not allowed to walk on the sidewalk. But when they went to court for her to combat this temporary restraining order that he got for no reason, he lost it in the courtroom. He couldn't even control himself, even though so he cooked his own goose because he just absolutely went bananas and just proved to the judge that he was the one that was the problem.
Yeah. Well, what happens in court with your ex, who is the narcissist, it's actually what I have experienced and what I have seen is actually the opposite. Because it's very hard to sit there when people are making false accusations against you, when people are lying, when people are doing this. And if you react, the judge will take it out on you because, again, they want to control your reactions, your responses, and your emotions.
Yeah,
she
even
did in the courtroom.
She had a hard time listening to all his shenanigans, but my dad's a police officer, so he's just like,
don't do anything.
Don't react.
It'll be okay.
Don't react. And so, but that's what I've seen, and this is why a lot of times the narcissist will win because they do not show any emotion, and then the victim has an emotional outburst. And then they say, see, told you she was crazy.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And so you have to do the opposite. You cannot react. And I can't even stress that enough. So if you find yourself in court, it takes so much self-control. You might as well just bring one of those little stress balls in your pocket so you can squeeze it.
Or go home and scream into your pillow when it's all said and done.
Oh yeah, you can't react. Your friends can't react. I've seen people get kicked out of courtrooms. I've seen all of this just for a tiny reaction. Because again, it's all about power and control. And if they can control your emotions, if they can control your reactions and your reactions, then they win. Because it's a game. That's a sick game. And if you are parenting with them, it is the most horrible feeling in the world to have to send your children with them. So this is why I've always been very open and honest with my kids. Like, hey, your dad's not in the right place mentally. Your dad is sick. This is how we treat people. We treat people with kindness. We treat people with this and with that.
Yeah.
And then again, document everything. I would always, after they would come back from their dad's house, I would document. I would write up a little piece of paper. Okay, they've come back. This is how they're reacting. This is what they told me. This is what happened. And it's like, you just have to do this.
It's terrible you have to do that, but got to do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm. And then to hire a custody evaluator. They go by different names and different. I think like in some places they call them like a guardian ad litem, or a child custody evaluator. Get a child custody evaluation as soon as possible, because you really don't want to split custody. You want full custody.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have anything else to share with our listeners?
Yeah. So I would just say, if any of this resonates with you and you are in a situation that you don't want to be in, one, it does get better. And do you have the keys to heal yourself within? You might need some tools. I had to do, I did EFT. I became an EFT practitioner, and it's a healing modality. There are so many healing modalities out there. Find one that resonates with you. Do the hard inner work. Learn the lessons. Break the patterns. Break the trauma bond, and go on and have a happy life, because you're worthy of so much more.
I love it. That's a great final word. So we're going to end it right here. This is How to Deal When the Shit Gets Real, and we will see y'all next episode.